In this lecture, we are going to see about entity authentication in Unit 4 message authentication and integrity. So, we know what is entity, it is a person or anything, right? But authentication, it is the proof of an identity of particular person, right? This is entity authentication. So, we will see these topics in this lecture: data origin versus entity authentication, biometrics, passwords, and challenge response protocol. So biometrics, passwords, challenge response protocol, these are the entity authentication techniques, right? So we'll see one by one. Let us start with entity authentication. So it is a technique which was designed to that one party or one person proves the identity of another one. That is authentication. So an entity can be a person or a process or a client or a server, anything, right? That is entity. So authentication is nothing but is the proof about the identity of one person or anything or a process. So this is entity authentication. For example, when Bob tried to prove the identity of another person, Alice, here Alice is the claimant and Bob is the verifier. When Bob tried to prove the identity of Alice, so whose identity is to be proved, that person is known as claimant and Bob is the verifier. Who only to be which person going to verify, that person is called as verifier, and which person going to be prove that the identity, that person is known as the claimant, right? Here Alice is the claimant and Bob is the verifier. So this is entity authentication. And what is data origin? What is the difference between data origin and entity authentication? So there are two main differences between message authentication and entity authentication. Both are authentication. So what is message and what is entity? So message authentication is not happened in a real time, right? But entity authentication is happened only in a real time. We will see in example later. So otherwise it is called as data origin authentication. Let us take the example. The Alice sends the message to Bob, right? When authenticate message, Alice may or may not be present in communication process, right? This is data origin authentication because it is not done in real time, right? Because it is run in real time. On the other hand, when Alice request entity authentication, there is no real time communication between Alice and Bob, right? So Alice needs to be online and take part in progress or process only after she is authenticated, be communicated between A and B, that is Alice and Bob. So at this time we need two authentication. One is data origin authentication and another one is entity authentication. So data authentication is required when an email sent from Alice to Bob, right? That is data origin authentication. It is not real time, but entity authentication is required when Alice gets an amount from ATM. So we can take an amount from ATM. It is a real time. So real time happening is called as entity authentication, but data origin authentication is nothing but like we can send a mail to another person. That is not real time, right? Because I can send a mail in one time, but another person can receive the mail at any time. So that is not real time happening. That is data origin authentication. Real time happening is called as entity authentication. So you have to remember the example, like email is data origin authentication, taking amount from ATM is entity authentication, because entity means a person have to take the amount from ATM, right? So that is entity authentication. So there are three techniques in entity authentication: biometric, password, challenge response protocol. We'll see one by one. So we will see we saw the introduction about data origin versus entity authentication, right? So data origin is not real time, but entity authentication is a real time. So what is biometric? It is a measurement of physiological or behavioral features, right? And it cannot be guessed or stolen or shared. So some of the components in biometric, we know, right? Biometric, it is a fingerprint, right? Biometric. So various components to be needed for biometric include capture devices, processors, and storage devices. So capturing devices are called as sensors, and the processor changes the measured features of the type of data for swing purpose. and storage devices save the result of processing for authentication, right? So these are the components of biometrics. So what is enrollment? Enrollment is nothing but data of each and every person to be available in database. That concept is known as enrollment. We always know, right? Enrolled. So enrollment is nothing but the data should be entered in a database, that is known as enrollment. So what is authentication? It is done by, or it is performed by two process. One is verification or identification. So you should know the difference between verification and identification. We will say example, then you can get the clear concept. Verification is nothing but to check the customer signature on a check, right? That is known as verification. That is verified by the bank persons. So identification means the company needs to allow access the building only to employees. For example, if you are entering the college, we are using our ID number or biometric, right? That is identification. But in bank, they are checking the sign in the check, that known as verification. That is verified, this is identification, right? This is the difference. So you should remember the example, then one you can get the clear concept. So the biometric can have two types. One is physiological and the second one is behavioral. In the versions you can clearly see that physiological means physical activities, but behavioral means their own attitude and behavior. So we will see what are they. So some of the physiological techniques are there. One is fingerprint, iris, retina and face. But behavioral techniques are signature, keystroke, hands, voice, DNA. So there are 5 methods in behavioral and 4 in physiological. We'll see one by one. First one is fingerprint. We all know, right? So there are several methods for measuring characteristics associated with fingerprint. The common methods are minute based and image based. So minute based technique is nothing but the system creates a graph based on each and every individual user. But image based technique is nothing but the system creates an image of fingerprint, right? That is image based fingerprint method. But it can be altered by any person. It can be altered by aging, injury or disease. So the next method is iris. It measures pattern within iris that is unique for each person, and it normally requires a laser beam. So this method is very accurate and stable over a person's life. And this iris can alter pattern if the person having eye disease, right? So the next one is retina. It is used for the purpose of blood vessels in the back of eyesight, but it is very expensive. The last technique is face recognition, right? So this method analyzes the geometry of face based on distance between facial features such as nose, mouth and eyes. Some methods combine geometric features with skin texture. Accuracy can be affected by eye classes, growing facial hair and aging. So these are the 4 methods used in physiological techniques. The next technique is behavioral technique. So it measures the human behavior, right? The first one is signature. The signature used in banking sector is used to verify the identity of the particular person. So it is used as signature tablets and special pens to identify the persons. It is not compare the final product, the signature. They also measure some other behavioral traits such as timing needed to write signature. Most commonly used in verification. Most commonly used purpose for verification only. Next one is keystroke. It is used to measure the behavior of the person which is related to working with a keyboard. That is keystroke. Next one is hands. It measures dimension of hands, that includes the shape and length of the fingers, and also it can be used in indoors and outdoors. It is better suited to verification process rather than identification. Next technique is voice. So the voice measures like pitch and tone in the voice. It can be used locally, microphone or remotely, audio channel, right? It is mostly used for verification. Accuracy can be identified by the background noise, illness and age. Accuracy can be affected by background noise and age. Now, last technique is DNA. So, DNA is found in the nucleus of all the cells of humans and most other organisms. Normally, DNA pattern is used full of human life and even after death. So it is extremely accurate and also used for both verification and identification process. But only problem in DNA is for the twins person, right? So these are the 5 methods used for behavioral technique. So this is all about biometric, the first method or first technique used in entity authentication. So biometric has two features, one is physiological and behavioral. So physiological having 4: fingerprint, iris, retina and face, and behavioral having signature, keystroke, hands, voice and DNA. Next one is password, we all know, right? So the simplest and oldest method of entity authentication is the password based authentication. We are familiar with that, right? It is used when a user needs to access the particular system or to utilize the system resources. Each user having ID is a public, but password is a private manner, right? So the password having two types. One is fixed password and another one is one-time password. So the first one is fixed password. Fixed password is a password that is used over and over again for every access, right? For example, we are login in Gmail. So we are giving login ID in Gmail and using the same password. Like we don't often change the password. We are using the password, same password again and again. That is the example of fixed password. So this is the approach. So each time we have to enter the password, a system keeps a table or a file that is sorted by the user identification. So to access the particular system resources, the user enter their identification and the password of their own in the plain text only. So the system user ID is to find the password in the table, that can be checked in the table. If the password is matched with the password which was entered by the user, then only the system enable the user to access the particular system resources. Otherwise they are displaying like invalid password or the invalid username and password, and the password does not match with the username, right? So this is the diagrammatical format. Allies can log in a system and the request sent from the CPU, like so the system maintain the table for each and every user, like user ID and password. Allies is the user ID and password is PA, that is plain text. So each time allies enter the password, the system check with the password which was entered in the table. If the password in the table and was entered by the allies are matched, then only allies can get access the system resources, right? Otherwise they can again pass the information to allies. So this is example of fixed password. So some of the drawbacks in fixed password, the attacks in fixed password is eavesdropping. So eavesdropping is nothing but the password may be listened by someone and they can easily track the password, right? Listen to someone's private conversation without them knowing, right? For example, Eve can watch allies. Allies is the sender. She types her password in a system, right? But Eve can watch what is typed by allies without knowing her. So after that Eve get the password of allies and he can misuse her password, right? This is the problem in fixed password, that is eavesdropping, right? And also the password may be stolen, that is stealing password concept. So the password cracking refers to various measures used to compute the passwords. Example, Eve tries to steal ally's password in physically. So to prevent this to memory, the password does not write down the password, right? So these are the concept of fixed password. So the next one is one-time password, because the password is one concept. So there are two types. One is fixed password. So there are some problems in fixed password, so they are going with another technique like one-time password. So in the word sense, the password is used only once. After the password is used, it can be erased. So it is a password that is used only once. So this kind of password cannot be eavesdropping and cannot be stolen. But some of the drawbacks also in one-time password. The drawback is the system and user must keep a long list of passwords, because one time we can use the password only once, after it can be erased. So the system and also the particular user maintain the long list of password. This is also one of the drawback in one-time password. If the user does not use the password in a sequence system, needs to perform a long search to find a match, right? So this is also the problem in one-time password, because in fixed password the system maintains a table for a particular user. So if a person log in multiple times, means the system maintains a corresponding user with the ID. So if the user again log in a particular system, means the system can easily retrieve the data from the table and allow the particular user to access the system resources, right? The computation speed is very fast, but in one time password, the password is used only once. So each time the user log in on a system, they have to use a different password. So the system does not cannot maintain a table or a file. So it take long time to search the particular user with the password to allow the user to access the particular resource. So these are the problems or drawbacks in one-time password. So the last technique in entity authentication is challenge response protocol. So password authentication proves her identity by demonstrating like she knows the secret, the password. In challenge response protocol, the claimant, that is allies sender, proves she knows the secret without sending it. So this is challenge response protocol. So in challenge response protocol, there are two concepts. One is by using symmetric cipher, and the second one is they are using asymmetric key cipher, right? So by using symmetric key cipher, several approaches to challenge response protocol using symmetric key encryption. The concept is the secret that is shared between both claimant and verifier. Encryption algorithm. So this is the diagrammatic format for symmetric key cipher for challenge response protocol. So here the verifier is Bob, claimant is allies. So the verifier sends a random number, that is nonce, which was used only once to challenge the claimant allies. So the nonce may be the time varying, because it is a timestamp or any value or bit. Every time it is created, it is time varying concept, right? So here the first message is not part of the challenge response. It only informs claimant that wants to challenge, right? So the first message, the first number one sent from allies to Bob, that is nothing but the challenge, that is not part of the challenge response. It is only informs claimant is nothing but allies. Allies wants to challenge to Bob. That is the first message. So the second message is nothing but RB, right? RB is sent from Bob to allies. So RB is nothing but is the nonce value that is chosen by verifier Bob to challenge to claimant allies. So the claimant, the next step, third step, the claimant allies encrypt the nonce value RB, which was sent by the Bob by using the secret key value, right? Known only verifier and claimant. That's why they are writing K suffix A minus B. A is allies, B means Bob, right? So these are the concept of using symmetric key cipher. And finally, verifier decrypts the message. So this is the challenge response protocol by using symmetric key cipher. So here also the same one. Here if allies needs Bob's identity in the bidirectional authentication, this is the concept of bidirectional. This is unidirectional. You can clearly see that here allies challenge to Bob, then Bob sent the nonce value, allies encrypt the nonce value, right? This is one way authentication. But this is mutual authentication, that is bidirectional authentication. So here you can clearly see that the first step is allies challenge to Bob, verifier. So the second step, Bob send the nonce value of Bob RB to allies. So then allies encrypt the value of RB and RA, that is nothing but the nonce value generated by allies, which was encrypted by the secret value, which was known only to allies and Bob. That's why they are writing K A minus B, right? This is secret. They are the symbol like lock, that is secret, which was known only to allies and Bob. And finally, after receiving RA and RB value from allies, Bob again encrypt the value RB and RA, which was sent from Bob to allies. by using the value k a minus b. So this is the concept of bidirectional. This is unidirectional and this is bidirectional authentication. So the above concept is using symmetry key cipher. This is using asymmetry key cipher. So instead of using symmetry key cipher, can use asymmetry key cipher for entity authentication. Here in asymmetry key cipher, the secret must be a private key of claimant, right? Private key of claimant is nothing but sender, right? So the sender must be shown that she wants the private key related to the public key available to everyone. So the following two approaches are there. One is unidirectional and bidirectional. Also we saw already we saw in symmetric key cipher. So the first approach is the same concept here. Here Alice initially send the encrypted with Alice public key value to Bob. So Bob send the value of nuns, send the information with nuns value that was generated by Bob RB, but it was encrypted by the key value of Alice only. That's why they are writing KA. Then Alice, this is unidirectional, right? This is not bidirectional. So the RB value sent from Alice to Bob. That is not that is not Alice don't have any reply from Bob. The information was sent from only Alice to Bob. That's why this is called as unidirectional asymmetric key authentication. And one more concept is there. We can also use digital signature here. So entity authentication can also be achieved using a digital signature. When a digital signature is used for entity authentication, the sender uses her private key signing. Two approaches are shown here. The first approach, the Bob uses the plain text challenge and Alice signs the response, challenge response protocol. So this is bidirectional, and this is the concept of digital signature with symmetric and asymmetric key cipher. So in first manner, Alice sends her identity and nuns encrypted with Bob public key, right? In the diagram you can clearly see that the first message was sent from Alice to Bob. The key value is KB, that is Bob public key, and Alice RA. RA is the nuns value, and Alice means her identity, sends her identity and nuns value which was encrypted by KB and sent from Alice to Bob. So in the next step, Bob responds with his nuns, that is RB, which was encrypted by Alice public key. So KA sent from Bob to Alice. So in the final step is Alice responds with Bob's decrypted nuns. So RB was sent from Bob to Alice in the second step. So in the final step, Alice decrypt the value, nuns value, RB's nuns value, which was sent from Bob to Alice. So this is bidirectional because the information does not, in the last step, Alice only sent the message to Bob, the return message not received from Bob. So this is bidirectional. So here the digital signature concept is used in entity authentication. So the same concept. So initially Alice send her identity to Bob, does not perform any encryption. Simply Alice send her identity to Bob. So Bob send the nuns information of their own RB to Alice, and finally Alice send the signature value, that is sign of RB Bob. So RB is the nuns value sent from Bob, and Bob sign value. So that is sent from Alice to Bob, which was signed with Alice private key, right? The signature sent from Alice to Bob with the information of RB that was generated from Bob, that was encrypted or signed with the Alice private key. So this is digital signature concept of unidirectional with entity authentication. So the final step one is also same. The second approach, Alice and Bob authenticate with each other. So in the first step, Alice send her identity to Bob. So again Bob sent the nuns value RB to Alice. Again Alice signed the value of Bob nuns value along with RA, right? RA is nothing but the private key value of Alice. So RA Bob of RB Bob, that is signed with Alice private key. So these are the concept of challenge response protocol. So what is an entity authentication? We all know what is entity and what is authentication. Entity may be any person or a process or anything. Authentication is nothing but the one person proves the identity of another person, that is authentication. There are some data origin authentication and message authentication. So state the categories of biometric. There are two categories, one is physiological and another one is behavioral category in biometric. So in entity authentication there are three techniques. One is biometric, password, and last one is challenge response protocol. In biometric there are two types, one is physiological and another one is behavioral. In physiological there are 4 types and behavioral there are 5 types. Next one is password. In password there are two types, one is fixed password and second one is one time password. In fixed password there are some drawbacks, so that they are goes with one time password. So in one time password also, which may have some disadvantages, but it is small drawbacks only compared to fixed password. So what are the two types of password? Fixed password and one time password. And what is meant by eavesdropping? So eavesdropping is nothing but the intermediate person can get the password of the sender without the knowledge of them, that is eavesdropping. And what is one time password? Which means the password was used only once, after the usage it can be erased.